So I listened to the book Mexican Gothic recently, and I was thinking about some of the ways, some of the choices the author made. So first, why is it called Mexican Gothic? Going into that title, I expected it to be, to be set, for the setting to be relevant. It's set in Mexico, but it's set in a Gothic manner, so it's set in the countryside somewhere in a big house. But the house is inhabited by English immigrants, and the book's in English. The characters all speak English most of the time. Most of the characters are Mexican, but English immigrants. So it didn't seem particularly Mexican to me. There are some things like the mixed race of the main character is relevant, but you can set a book in Mexico. But why would you call it Mexican Gothic? Because it didn't seem to me particularly Mexican. Like I said, all the characters are English, besides the main character. And she's only... Look, there's a light in the dark. It doesn't even matter that she's Mexican, it's just that she's a different race than the other characters in the story. So they could have just called it, mold Gothic, mushroom Gothic. Those are more relevant. Next, I ended up feeling unsatisfied with how the supernatural and the horror was portrayed. So in the beginning, there's sort of no explanation. There's these strange things going on, hallucinations, dreams, strange telepathy, and then there's sort of no explanation. There's some hints, like there's very obviously mold is mentioned a lot, and like fungus and mushrooms, and then all of a sudden, like 3/4 of the way through, there's just a section where all of it's explained. Just a section of complete exposition where everything's explained. And then not only is it explained, how everything specifically works, it's like listed off as if it's like superpowers of the inhabitants of the house and of the house itself. It sort of cheapens it. It's not like it's not mysterious anymore. It's fully explained. It's not. The mechanics of it are fully explained. And also, so I was listening to this, so I would have been distracted sometime. But I was expecting at the beginning there to be some mystery. What are some relevant details? What are some little Easter eggs that are put in early, and then later are revealed to be important. And the chief two were a symbol of a snake eating its tail, and the mold, which was everywhere. The mold and the mushrooms and the fungus. But those recurring things, the snake and the mold, they're repeated so frequently that you kind of get sick of hearing about them. And it's so obvious that the mold is, or the fungus, the whatever, not plants, are so obvious that those are part of the explanation that it's not at all surprising when it's revealed that those are like responsible for the hallucinations and the visions. And then, so when it's finally explained, like the snake represents the snake eating itself represents the family. It's like, okay, not subtle at all. Like I said, I was working most as I was listening to this, and I initially was thinking, oh, what do I have to pay attention to? What details are going to be important later? Like, oh, is this mold important? But then every single scene had these details. So maybe there was like more subtlety to it that I missed. But the fact that some of the details were so with a clear intention that they're important and that they'd then be revealed later, and then the way that they were revealed was just not very satisfying. So everything was so well explained that it sort of lost some of its horror for me, or some of the thrill. Like, in the beginning, the main character has a dream where another character appears, and it sort of seems like it's his dream, even though she's the one dreaming it. And then there's sort of some hints that maybe he was in that dream too. Maybe he experienced it too, and it was his dream. And like he sort of looks at her knowingly and so on, and hints at it. And then later it's just completely revealed. Yes, it was his dream. That's just something that he can do due to the house. And it's like, okay, well, that's not really scary anymore. That's just something that can happen. She doesn't know the rules in the beginning. There's strange things happening. Strange background. And then everything's explained. And then now it's not strange anymore. And then now she just has to burn it down. She doesn't guess. Like, it was obvious from early on, she was a smoker. So like she has a lighter or whatever. And obviously the house is evil. So obviously she should burn it down. burn out the rot. And so then that finally happened, especially after it already revealed all the rules. It was like, okay, I expected that to happen. So with horror or with thriller, sort of the joy is in the terror of it. It's in you're expecting something horrible to happen. So in like an action scene or some conflict, if the antagonist has a normal weapon, a standard antagonist weapon like a gun or a knife, which are both used in this book as weapons, then you kind of know what to expect. If the antagonist has the gun, they're in control. They can use it in a certain way. It works in a certain way. Needs ammunition. That's like a standard thing. Running out of ammo, it changes the stakes. You can drop the gun. It's no longer useful. Common thing that happens in stories. But in a supernatural story with a thriller, you can take advantage of the fact that the environment is potentially can do anything. And in this sort of thing where it's the whole house is bent against her, both body and mind. You sort of, you would expect that you don't know what's going to come next. Maybe the house has one new power over her or another that sort of can affect and act in vague ways. But instead, when it's all explained, it becomes a little bit more just like another weapon, another tool of the enemy. So it becomes lesser a thriller, because if the character understands it and you understand it, then you can't really be surprised, terrified, horrified when anything happens. So you can be surprised by in this book, and in general, are the actions of the people in the story. But then it's just it's not really a supernatural story anymore. It's just about people deceiving you. And in the end of the book, she escapes with her newfound friend. And it's like, it sort of says, oh, are we sure that we're cured of the infection? But the infection was so thoroughly explained. You have to do so-and-so to do this and that to pass it on. you can control it, that it's like, okay, obviously they're free of it. And obviously it's not going to affect them anymore. So basically there's not enough mystery. Like there's Jupiter. Pretty bright. As for the actual writing, characterization, it was fine. Good enough with the story. Definitely. Characters were, each one was unique. But I guess I just didn't really get the Gothic part of it. Didn't understand why it was set where it was, and why the story was told, that part of the story was told in the way that it was. Not even that it was bad. I just didn't understand choices. The choices made. Serious? So maybe I should just read more Gothic literature, genre literature, read more Gothic stories, read more Mexican stories to see how those two combined in Mexican Gothic. But for now, gotta get home.